OWCS Stage 2 is making its return this week, and we're starting off the gauntlet of power rankings and region previews with Korea. Over the next several weeks, the world's best players will go head-to-head with only 2 spots up for grabs for this year's mid-season tournament, aka the Esports World Cup in Saudi Arabia this July. In this video, we'll discuss all of the teams, talk about their rosters, their strengths and weaknesses, and who is looking like the most likely to make it to the mid-season championship. I'll give you my power rankings and predict what I think these teams' records will be. But first things first, let's talk about these teams as several changes have gone down. So starting at the top, funny enough, no actual change with Crazy Raccoon. They're obviously going to be one of the favorites in this stage until proven otherwise. And in my opinion, as I've said several times in other videos recently, I believe they become a stronger team compared to, let's say, the beginning of this season. They had to face some major adversity in that first Champions Clash LAN tournament in China, that choke job against Nightmare, having to overcome their rivals in Falcons who had beaten them several times previously as well. I believe that they've come out of this tournament as a stronger overall team, a lot more mental resilience because of the challenges they faced along the way, and justifiably so. They didn't have to make any changes with their team because they won Stage 1. I think they're in a great spot right now. They're still one of the favorites alongside Falcons, and they still just might be number 1 with all of the amazing firepower on this team, plus the improvements I just talked about. But then we get into the changes, the roster mania, if you will. And first and foremost, we have to address the elephant in the room, Team Falcons. I didn't make a video about it. I apologize. I wasn't able to, but someone in merit are joining this team after a disappointing Stage 1. There are a lot of rumors for a while that this was going to happen, but now it's set in stone. And this team on paper has become even scarier somehow. It's unreal that they were able to improve an already elite team, one of the 2 best in the entire world, but they went out and did it by acquiring 2 world-class talents. Someone in merit are Overwatch League champions. They found a lot of success last year on Toronto Defiant. They could be very, very important additions to this team in terms of pushing themselves to getting another championship later this year and being more competitive in Saudi Arabia in just a couple of months from now. And at the end of the day, they improved upon the only real potential weaknesses you could point out with this team, if you even want to call it that. Hanbin has been incredible this season. He's improved upon some of his weaknesses in the past, but obviously there are gaps in his hero pool, and someone can come right in there and fill those immediately. They have upgraded their Winston slot significantly with a world-class monkey player, one of the best to ever do it, no doubt about it. Their dive is going to be even stronger than it already was, which is saying something because you have freaking Proper and Stalker as a DPS line in a dive situation. It's absolutely nasty stuff. Someone provides a lot of flexibility, and you don't have to worry about any of the drawbacks that you maybe had with Smurf last year, let's say. If you do need to make changes on the fly, someone can play basically any tank at the game at a relatively high level, so there's no reason to be worried there. It's never going to be a high-risk substitution. I'm assuming Hanbin could still be like their main guy, and then you have someone fill in the gaps, but in those situations where someone has to come in, no reason to be concerned at all if they can actually synergize as well as we think. And then with merit, I mean, Proper and Stalker have shown that there really aren't any gaps in their hero pools, but there were times where the hit scan maybe was a little lackluster, and that's obviously what merit is known for. So you can have him be a plug-and-play player for certain maps. He could basically have the role that Happy had last year, but maybe to a higher level because merit arguably could still be in his prime at this point. The only real question I have is how fast can someone in merit adjust to this new environment? And I'll be for real with you, I'm very curious to see how merit truly can fit into this equation and how they can make it feel different compared to when Happy was on the team. It felt awkward at times with him subbing in, and it messed up the flow that they had with Stalker and Proper, which proved to just be a better overall combination. How can they get merit to seamlessly fit in and be a good rotational piece? And can he play at the same level as those two? I mean, Stalker has arguably been the league's MVP so far, and you know what Proper can do? So it's going to be tough to have all 3 of these guys play and find value without seeing any kind of drop-off, and I'm curious to see how that goes. But as of right now, this feels like a pretty low risk, high reward type of move because you don't have to play them if it doesn't work out. They can go back to their tried and true like we saw last year and still be relatively successful. But on paper, someone in Merit provide the real solution to the only real issue that was left with this team. And that's the fact that sometimes they were lacking with the flexibility. When Mauga wasn't always so stagnant in the meta, sometimes they'd fall behind Crazy Raccoon, who just had so many tricks in their bag. But by adding someone in Merit into the mix, you could get rid of that problem altogether if it really does work out. So it's a good move by Falcons. The rich get richer, and they're going to be scary to deal with. And then there's Zeta Division, and I've talked about it several times on the channel already, but Violet's gone. He's off this team. He's moved on to a different adventure, and they still don't have a replacement for him as of this recording. They did pick up Farmer, but he doesn't play main support. That's a tank player. He didn't even play that great either, I'd like to add, in Korea, but maybe the coaching can straighten him up and he can be the Winston player they need for certain situations. But the big point of emphasis is that support line. Can they keep up with potentially having alexyOWL or one of the other DPS go over to main support? That feels like a very awkward fit. We saw alexyOWL play a little bit of main support last stage, but it was pretty inconsistent. Here in the mid-season, they're probably going to struggle if they don't have some kind of solution. If they're having a DPS fill in on that role, there's going to be major inconsistencies that will lose them games. Korea's tough. If you have any kind of weakness, it's almost always going to get exploited, and that really worries me. The rest of the team is really good, but one hole could be all it takes. Can anyone on this team step up to play support if they don't sign anyone? I really have my doubts about that. And can the rest of the team pop off hard enough to cover up this potential weakness? I just have a lot of doubts right now. And it sucks too because I like this team. alexyOWL, Pelican, Flora, one of the best DPS lines out there. Bernard has shown several times this year he is an unbelievably goated tank. I think Finn's having a bit of a resurgence in his career. But when you combine that Violet is gone with the shortcomings in Stage 1, it feels like this team has a lot of questions that need to be answered, and the doubts have never been higher. It feels like the gap between them and their rivals is getting even bigger, while other teams behind them are starting to close it. I'm worried their confidence is going to be absolutely shot. Between thinking about what happened last stage and some of the struggles that could be incoming, I've never been more afraid of Zeta than I am right now in terms of failure. This could be where the fall off happens, and that would be really depressing just because they never were able to truly seek glory. But hopefully they can prove me wrong. This is going to be a pivotal stage to decide the direction this team goes, so watch them very carefully. As for the other team that actually made it through Korea to Asia Stage 1, you've got Wei, who look and feel a lot different. Most of the main core is there with Lee Soo-min, Maka, Guru, and Aid, but there's a couple of pivotal changes that happen with them. Whoru and Peppy are off of Wei, and they were arguably the two MVPs of this team a lot of the time alongside Aid. Big holes that need to be filled here. Peppy with that dominant Sigma play, and Whoru just being the leader and the veteran of the team with all those hero plays on Genji. It's going to be difficult to go without those things. In return, they've got Sunjun and Jasmine, who I think are very respectable talents, but they may not be at the level of a Peppy or a Whoru, and that could mean that Wei struggle a lot more. They depended so much on those guys' heroics to actually be relevant and win games that they weren't expected to. Can they still have that edge without them? Can the rest of the team step up after learning so much from those guys? I have my doubts. They could still be respectable, like middle of the pack, but I am not sure anymore if they can still maintain a top 4 positioning or not. There's several changes going on that could work to their advantage, but also others that could prove to be a great challenge. I like this Wei team, but I don't love them, and that could be the difference. Then we've got the other partner team, T1. After a disappointing go of the first stage, they made a small change, getting rid of Opener and adding in Vigilante to the team to be the new main support. And in the Soup Cup, the little bit of gameplay that we've seen from them, they looked promising. And also, I've heard some rumblings that scrims have been going very well. Even Coach Moon said they've been doing pretty good. So maybe a promising sign that they're showing progress after coming up short and being so disappointing in Stage 1. There's a lot to like with this team. Again, it's just if they can capitalize on the potential we know they have. Proud Viper and Zest is a very good DPS line that can punch well above their weight. Donghak, even though he's a solo tank, is still pretty reliable. And the backline, I mean, it's two names that have found success in the past in their careers. They got rid of Opener, who I think was the biggest weak point of the team, which is good. It's just a matter of if the support line can still keep up. Early indicators would say yes, but you never know as things transition into the big stage here. That backline's really important, but I'll also be looking at Proud to see if he can continue to play at the level that we saw in Stage 1. He capitalized a lot on his potential, he showed good growth as a player, and they're going to need him to perform again if they want to have any chance. T1 is probably the team outside of Zeta I'll be watching the closest this stage, just because they were so disappointing in Stage 1 and so inconsistent. They've got to show strides in their gameplay. They got to show good improvements. They can't afford to miss the cut of top 4 in the Asia tournament again as a partner team. Clearly, they've got to change something if they can't make that cutoff with this level of talent. Really important stage for them. The pressure is on, and I'm hopeful that they can make the cut. After that is where things get a bit confusing, as I believe Korea is supposed to only be a stage of 9 teams, but right now there's 10 in the mix, which makes me think that one team could be going away. The most likely candidate would be FTG, who did become a new org in Onside Gaming, and they've lost multiple players, and I haven't heard anything about their roster either, so I feel like there's a good chance they end up just being relegated or deleted altogether somehow, but for right now, I'll put an asterisk on them. As for the rest of the group, all 4 of these teams made it through the promotion relegation system, those being Pokerface, UltTab, Old Ocean, and Vec. The one that stands out the most has gotta be Old Ocean, not necessarily for their power level, but because Ryu Jehong is back again. He made OWCS last year, and he made it back here again this year. The old man has still got it. Him and his squad made it through the promotion relegation system in some hard-fought battles. And you know, the team isn't that bad. Jehong, we know what he is at this point. He's not the greatest flex support, but I guess it could be worse. But they've got a good DPS line. Becky's back on the team. They've got Probe and Minute. There's a lot of promise there. There's questions I have about that backline and with Tank as well. It seems relatively weak, but they may have enough on paper to actually win a game or two. I feel slightly more confident compared to last year, let's say. And they could actually be a pretty interesting team to watch, not just because they have the legend Jehong, but because it seems like they want to play some unique compositions that maybe none of these other teams will play. I don't know if they'll break it out for sure here in the regular season, but in those promotion relegation games, they were playing some Freya comps, all centered around Probe and doing whatever they could to protect him, like so many different variants of it, and it found success clearly enough to make it this far. So hopefully we see more of that and they can be like a weird Chengdu Korea team, but with Freya instead of Ball, I guess. And if you have any doubts at all, I can't blame you. There clearly are some big weaknesses on this team, but they actually did beat some of these other teams that made it through the promotion relegation system, so maybe that's a promising sign that they can hold their own at the bottom. I really hope that Jehong and the boys can get a dub. Jehong hasn't won a meaningful game of Overwatch in forever at this point, so it'd be a really good feel-good moment if he can get some redemption after coming up short last year. But we'll have to see. Looking at Pokerface and Vec, they made it back here for another stage, so congrats to them for not flopping and showing improvement, doing enough to make it through that promotion relegation system. Pokerface feel like the stronger team than Vec right now. They actually got first place in promotion relegation and looked pretty dominant throughout, and they didn't really make all that many changes with their team. A couple of changes at support and tank, but it is mostly the same squad. I had high hopes that they'd play decently in Stage 1, but they flopped big time. I don't know how they intend to be better with such minimal changes, but I suppose we'll just have to wait and find out. There's aspects of the team I like. I'm a big Alien and Dart fan. I've always liked Donghoon as a player. Karu adds some good firepower into the mix. I just don't know if it's enough for them to be any different than Stage 1. Maybe with some of these other rosters changing, it could allow them the ability to win more games, but it feels like they're capped off at a pretty small amount, just like last stage. I don't have much confidence after witnessing what I did in Stage 1, so I'm hoping they prove me wrong because I do like this organization so much. But right now, they still feel pretty mediocre. Maybe the best team of the promotion relegation, but aside from that, a lot of doubts. Then there's Vec, and I am just so tired of talking about these guys. Seems like maybe a technicality is the only reason they made it through promotion relegation this time, but regardless, they're back, and I still don't have any confidence. Just like every other stage they've been a part of somehow, some way, they feel like one of the weakest, if not the weakest team on paper. And this time they may not even be capable of defeating Old Ocean, because their team is a lot different compared to the last time they played them last season. And like I said, Old Ocean arguably are a better team now. You just can't kill this team no matter what. No matter how many times they suck in this region, they find a way to crawl back. They're like a zombie or something. I don't even know how to describe it, but they're here again, maybe to get last place once again. They've made some changes compared to last stage. Architect is off this team, but really not that much to be excited about. And at most, they're probably only winning like 1 or 2 games max. So we'll just leave it at that. Let Vec be Vec. And the other team that made it through promotion relegation actually getting top 2 was OWCS, and they've got several very familiar names here. Kilo, back from the San Francisco Shock. He's making his return to a big tournament like this. Otto, the legend from the Shanghai Dragons and the Overwatch League, is back. You got FaZe and Attack, that tank line back together. Openers on this team. A lot of very familiar names, a lot of vets all going out there together. I think this team is arguably the most balanced of all of the promotion relegation teams. Clearly not the best because Pokerface kicked their butts, but there's some room there for them to improve. I think at the very least, they have a lot of fan favorites. I mean, we're going to see Otto start in freaking 2025 in a big official match, so that's something. The only thing I will tell you, though, is maybe not to get your hopes up too much. They did get second in the promotion relegation, but they didn't actually play Old Ocean because of their positioning, and Pokerface actually struggled more with Old Ocean than they did OWCS, so that could be really telling on just how good, or I guess you could say bad, this team really is. But regardless, it should be a pretty easy one to cheer for, and they don't feel like the worst team on paper, so let's see what they can do when they go out there. So here's a look at my Stage 2 preseason power rankings. At number 1, I am going with Crazy Raccoon. I think there's a good chance they could go undefeated this stage. And again, I believe they're a stronger team than they were at the beginning of this season, thanks to what happened in the most recent tournament. And with the talent they have, obviously they can still compete with just about anybody. But I think they're going to take number 1 over Falcons, just because they don't have to worry about incorporating new players into the team. They can just focus on themselves. On paper, Falcons could absolutely be better than Crazy Raccoon, and I wouldn't blame you for putting Falcons 1, but I believe there could be a bit of a grace period as they adjust to these new talents and figuring out their playstyles and how to best utilize them. Someone and Merit are elite talents, but you can't just have everything solved overnight, you know? Some experimentation could be the key to their success in Stage 2 and onwards, and that could lead to a loss, let's say, against Crazy Raccoon as they try and figure things out. They're still an excellent team, and I don't really even think they're that susceptible to an upset. Could happen, but they still probably will be top 2 or 3 at bare minimum. With the amount of power they have on their team, there's no doubt about it. I don't see how anyone else could stop them aside from Crazy Raccoon right now. But maybe some struggles could happen as they get these new players involved. Then the surprising thing happens with my number 3 spot actually going to T1. I think they're going to go 7-2 or 6-2 depending on how many teams participate here. I have them ahead of Zeta Division, and I think it's for a combination of 2 things. 1, the Scrimbucks, but also alongside that, Zeta just becoming a weaker team on the surface and having a lot of questions that need answering. I think there's a world where they could struggle a lot here, especially if they're not picking up any kind of main support player. I could see a world where T1 end up jumping up in the standings compared to Stage 1. They seem to be playing well right now, just as the start of this stage is coming through. And some of their rivals have gotten weaker. Both Zeta and Wei do not feel as good as they did last stage. This is such a good opportunity for this team. They have the talent to make it happen. I think they've learned a lot as a young squad, and they'll continue to show improvements. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, but we got to change things up and not have it be the same boring teams over and over again. So we're putting T1 at 3rd. And despite all of my concerns, I still think Zeta Division could still very easily get top 4. It may be a struggle to be even higher than that, but compared to some of these other teams that are behind them, I still feel like they have the edge. Even with that potential weakness at main support, they've shown they can win games with like an alphA or a Pelican at support. And at the end of the day, they still have a lot of amazing talents at all of their positions that definitely outclass some of these other guys. One of the best DPS lines, Bernard's like a top 3 tank in the game right now. There's just too much talent there. I'll be curious to see how they can implement somebody like Farmer into this team, if at all. But right now, I think the talent alone should let them prevail. Beyond that, I'm not very certain of what they can do, but top 4 still feels very doable, hence why I'm putting them here. Then at number 5, I think I'm going to stick with Wei. I do have concerns about Whoru not being on this team. It feels like wherever he goes, magic seems to follow, so adjusting without him should be a challenge. But again, I like Sunjun a lot. I think he can make up for some of that. He is a pretty flexible player. He's got a good Genji himself. I think this team can hold on. I don't think there's a lot of competition in the bottom half of Korea, and I think they have the experience to still be really good with basically the same core, just with a couple of other changes. If we do have 10 teams in OWCS Korea, this is where I'd probably put Onside Gaming / FTG. I think they'd be middle of the pack. I think they'd probably do a good job of rounding out the rest of the roster, as they've tended to do recently, but I'm assuming they probably won't be here. So in that either 6 or 7 spot, depending on what happens, I'd go Poker Face. I think they are clearly better than the bottom of the barrel promotion relegation teams. They've dominated all of them. Old Ocean, Alt Tab, none of them really stood a chance. It's not a great team, and I have doubts they can punch above their weight, but when it comes to the lower class teams, clearly they have some kind of advantage, and I'm going to rock with that based off of what I know with the information. Then at the number 8/7 spot, I have Old Ocean. I could heavily end up regretting this, but I think there's a world where they can win multiple games. I think the Alt Tab and Vec matchups are extremely winnable. Neither of those teams are all that impressive. Old Ocean have a couple of strengths on this team, and it feels like they have a certain identity they want to go for, and that could be good enough to generate the consistency to beat some of these lower level teams. Plus, I really want to see Jehong get some redemption and get some W's in 2025 alongside Becky. I think that'd be pretty hype, so we're going to cheer them on, gas them up a little bit. If it ends up going up in flames, then so be it. Then with the bottom 2, we've got Alt Tab followed by Vec in last place. Honestly, Old Ocean and Alt Tab could end up being interchangeable in that position, just because you could argue Alt Tab have a better team on paper, stronger tank and supports, I would say, potentially, but DPS I think might go to Old Ocean, and maybe those guys could carry enough for it to not make much of a difference, plus the whole identity thing. I'm not sure where that goes. Could go either way, but regardless, I do think that Vec will be the worst team. I'm just used to them being bad. I don't like the way this roster is shaping up. The only reason they made it here is probably a technicality. They couldn't even beat Old Ocean in the promotion relegation, so I have them firmly in last place, and hopefully this can finally be goodbye for good. But anyway, there you have it. That is my preview and my power rankings for Stage 2 of OWCS Korea. Let me know which teams you're the most excited to watch down in the comments below and what your power rankings are looking like as well. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more OWCS previews and conversations just like this. I'll be having an NA and EU video go up soon enough, just waiting on some more information before that happens, but stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.